Portions of Aqua Kids have been produced with the cooperation of the National Estuarine Research Reserve System.
Welcome to our Great Lakes adventure. Over the next few months, we will be exploring Lake Erie and Lake Superior, along with their tributaries and coastal areas. We'll be highlighting the many programs, dedicated researchers, organizations, and individuals working to keep those fragile ecosystems healthy and productive. So, ready to make a difference? Building a better planet starts with you.
Aqua Kids, traveling around the world, going where we've never been before, having fun and so much more, learning from our friends of the sea, saving them is up to you and me. Aqua Kids.
As our Great Lake adventure continues, we're here in Superior Bay, and we're learning about how invasive plants and animals are having negative effects on the native species. Hey, Sean.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
What are we
How are you
doing
doing?
today?
Today we're going to go look for some rusty crayfish.
What are rusty crayfish?
Rusty crayfish are invasive species. Here, they're native to the Ohio River Valley region, but they've been invading Wisconsin lakes for about the past 30 or 40 years. And in 1999, they found them here in Superior Bay. So one of the things we want to do is figure out how many are here and whether the populations are increasing. So we do regular surveys using crayfish traps, or modified minnow traps, as they call them. But today what we're going to do is we're going to do a little experiment to see what bait works best. Because we put these in the water overnight, and we try to get the crayfish coming in, so it's a baited type trap system. The bait we're going to use is beef liver, dog food, and fish bits.
Beef liver. That's going to be some good eating right there.
Sounds yummy.
So how do we do it? How do we set the trap up?
Well, the two pieces of the trap. We take the pieces together. There's a little opening here we put that into, and it clips. And over here, that's the trap. We put the bait inside. And we need a float too, which are over here. So we have our floats attached to, we can find one attached to a line. Then we attach the line onto the trap, because that closes the trap.
So how can we help?
Well, you can help us bait the traps and put them in the water.
Beef liver, yum.
I wonder if the liver comes with onions. Oh.
There you go. It's crunchy. You got it. Just don't look it in the eye.
That's some good eating right there.
So good. So good. You want it? No, you don't.
All right, so we take this floaty, we insert it here, like this.
Yes.
All right, so this is ready.
That is ready to go.
We'll set this to the side.
Well, let's go just put it in over here.
Oh,
okay.
just put it in.
We're gonna
Okay.
do some right here.
This way?
Yep.
You want to hold this?
Stop.
All right.
Right
Right.
in here.
And just throw it in.
Yep, just toss it in.
1, 2, and 3. Yeah, buddy.
Okay, so let's load this trap. Now, he said a handful of dung.
Yeah.
All right, put it in.
There we go. Oops, we lost it.
Put it in.
Got it.
All right.
Okay.
Then a thing of fish.
Oh, yeah. At least this one doesn't have an eye.
Then some beef.
Mm-hmm.
Meat.
Stop. Why'd you
Got
put
it. All right, so now we close it up. We
Yeah.
have to get a floaty.
All right, here's your floaty.
All right, I have the floaty. Now we hook it in.
Okay. There.
Why don't we get the other Aqua Kids to help us load these up? Tomorrow we're gonna come back with like all of these are gonna be full. Hope so. I hope these will be full of crayfish in the morning.
Me too.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Everybody ready?
Where are we going?
We're gonna go put some traps in around the bay. All right,
All right.
How about one right here? Good job.
Thank you.
Steph Curry with the shot.
Alright. And we're done. Yeah.
All right.
Well, are we done for the day?
Yep, we'll come back tomorrow and pick them up and see what we have.
Hopefully
Sounds
we catch
good.
something.
Now it's time for Aqua Quiz with your host, Drew Cruz.
I'm your host, Drew Cruz, and it's time to test your knowledge with another Aqua Quiz. The Great Lakes ecosystem has been severely damaged by invasive and non-native species. Can you guess the numbers of invasive species that have invaded the Great Lakes? Is it A, 75, B, 100, C, 180, or D, 250? I'll have the sad numbers after the break. Welcome back. Can you guess how many invasive and non-native species have invaded the Great Lakes? The answer is C, 180. Species such as the zebra mussel, rusty crayfish, round goby, sea lamprey, and alewife reproduce and spread, ultimately degrading habitat, outcompeting native species, and short-circuiting food webs. We'll see you next week with another Aqua Quiz. Welcome back to Aqua Kids.
As our Great Lake adventure continues, we're back at Superior Bay, where the day before we set traps out to catch rusty crayfish, an invasive species here in this bay. Now let's go see what bait works best to best survey the rusty crayfish population. Hey guys, hey Sean, how are you today?
Good morning.
So what are we about to do?
Well, we're going to pull these cages out and see what we caught.
All right, we'll start with this one.
Yeah, let's start with this one.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Moment of truth.
Let's see what he got.
Oh, would you look at that?
We got some gobies.
Hey.
Let's put them in the bin.
All right. I don't want to get the liver in there. There we go.
This was the all bait, so we had the liver, the fish, and the dog food. And we got 2 round gobies, which are another invasive species in the estuary here.
Where did the gobies come from?
Well, they're initially from Europe, but now they're moving around the Great Lakes.
What problems are the round gobies causing?
Well, they can eat the eggs of other native species, so they can displace species in this estuary.
That's sad.
Well, it's a good thing we caught them then, isn't it? Yeah, all right.
Let's take a look and see what these guys look like. So after you catch these invasive species, what do you do with them?
Well, we can't put them back in the water, so we euthanize them.
What does that mean?
Well, in this case, with round gobies, we freeze them.
Well, we've got another trap over here. Let's go get it.
Right?
Looks like nothing.
Oh man.
Sean, I noticed that the water's even more murkier than yesterday, and our traps have moved. Why is that?
We had a severe storm event last night. A lot of rain came down, a lot of wind, and that moved the traps around. We've been experiencing more of those recently, and that's actually expected under climate change predictions for this area. Okay, guys, let's go get on the boat and collect them.
All right.
All right.
Let's go.
All right, we'll start with this one over here.
Nothing.
What's the number on the top?
18D.
It's my turn now. Ooh, look at that. Wait a minute, there is something in here. Look, is that a goby?
Oh, it looks like it.
No,
Nothing.
Little fishy fishy.
nothing. Don't be scared.
Another goby in there.
We've got a bunch in front of us. Oh, little baby catfish. All right, we gotta look at this little catfish here. Sean, do you know what kind this is?
No, I don't know catfish.
All right, well, he is native, so we gotta put him back.
One, three. On my side. Here we go. Pass it to me. I got it. The top is gone. Yeah. Andrew, they obviously knew how to open that.
Yeah, those invasive species are pretty smart.
So far, no crayfish at all. Is that a good thing?
Yeah, that's a good thing.
All right.
We got a goby.
Another goby.
I don't see any.
I think we lost about 5 or 6 in the storm.
So we didn't get any of those crayfish today, but that's pretty good.
So what did we learn today, guys?
Well, the survey wasn't a complete bust because although we were going after crayfish and didn't catch any, we still caught some invasives.
Yeah, you're right. We caught gobies, and gobies are also invasive, so it's a good thing we caught those.
And it's probably a good thing we didn't find any crayfish because that means there may not be too many in the area.
Yeah. You know what? You're right. And we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Aqua Kids. As we've learned during our Great Lakes adventure, the Great Lakes get a lot of boat traffic. This can be good, but can also have major consequences. Let's go check in with Frank and get the full story. Hey Frank, how you doing?
Hey Drew. Selena.
Hi.
Good to see you.
So Frank, tell us, what's the deal with things that come on boats from other countries?
Well, see, what happened was that boats would take on water in their home port. That was called ballast water, and that steadied the boat as it went across the ocean toward the Great Lakes. And so when they would get in the lakes through the St. Lawrence Seaway, they would come close to port, they would blow out that ballast water. And of course that water contained everything from where they came from. So in 1988, for example, in the Caspian Sea region, there is a mussel called the Zebra Mussel. Its fancy name is Dracenid, that's its scientific name. And the Dracenids came in through ballast water in the Great Lakes. They began to suffocate native mussels by, just covering them, and they'll cover anything underwater that has a hard surface. And eventually they just completely outcompeted freshwater mussels, where there's very few freshwater mussels left in Lake Erie.
So Frank, that kind of sounds like an invasive species, am I right?
That's correct. I mean, it's an aquatic invasive species, and there are a lot of them because of the Great Lakes connection to the rest of the world for shipping and other reasons that came in through the Great Lakes, through the St. Lawrence Seaway, through those boats. Now, that's not a big problem today. I mean, we don't do ballast water in the Great Lakes anymore. There are other pathways.
Pathways? What do you mean?
Well, there are other pathways like recreational boating and fishing. Oftentimes people will use bait in different rivers and lakes. They move things around. They won't clean off their boats before they go back to where their home is. That's one that we're really concerned about, and that's the one that most people can make a big difference on. There are also things like hydrologic disconnections, like we're concerned about disconnecting the Great Lakes from the Mississippi River right now to keep out some different species of carp.
So what kind of invasive species might we find out here on Lake Erie?
Well, as I mentioned, the Dracenid mussels, the zebra mussel and the quagga mussel. The quagga mussel is actually even bigger. Same family. They're very, very common out in the lake. Also, round gobies are a fish species that also came from the Caspian region and are out in Lake Erie in abundance. And there's some good and bad to round gobies. They outcompete other fish species. They also eat smallmouth bass eggs, so it causes us to change our bag limits a little bit on smallmouth bass in the spring. But from a standpoint of food source, I know on your Great Lakes adventure you saw the Lake Erie water snake. The round goby is the primary food source for the Lake Erie water snake.
So there's definitely a give and take when it comes to invasive species, but nonetheless it affects the food chain and ecosystem.
That's exactly right, Drew. I mean, the thing that you almost need to see it come here and see what kind of impact it's going to have.
So Frank, I heard that the zebra mussel actually cleaned up Lake Erie. Is that true?
Kind of a misnomer, really, because what the zebra mussel did, yes, it does filter feed, and so it cleans the water, but it also returns the phosphorus, which are the source of algal blooms in the lake. So you have the same potential for algal blooms to form with the zebra mussels as opposed to the native freshwater mussels.
Okay. Now, I love talking about it and all, but I kind of want to hop in the water and try to find something. Can we do that?
If you don't mind getting wet, yes.
All right, I'm in.
Let's do it. Hey Andrew, I feel a little overdressed for
Yeah,
this, man.
me too.
Hey, but there's Emily.
Hey guys,
What's going on?
how's
What do
it
you have there?
going?
I guess I missed a memo.
Yeah, you guys look great though. So
Thank you.
here we have some shells of zebra and quagga mussels, which, as Frank was saying, are some invasive species that we might find out here. So we're gonna go ahead and snorkel out to some structures and see if we can find some of those hanging on. We might see some round gobies, some bluegill, sunfish, and anything else you might see. So we can go in.
Let's get in the water.
Yeah.
Cool.
We got zebra mussels.
Zebra Mussels. What did you see?
I saw Gobys and mussels as well.
Awesome. How about you, Joe?
Following you guys, all I saw was dust. Aqua Kids will be right back. For more information on today's show, go to aquakidstv.org.
I'm Jeremiah, and this is Earth Edition. Invasive species are animals, fish, plants, or microbes that are non-native to a certain area. They are harmful when they tip the balance of the local ecosystem by disturbing how living things interact. These uninvited guests are in our forests, fields, wetlands, and waterways. They are considered invasive when they cause harm. But it is important to recognize that some non-native species are beneficial. Much of what America eats was originally imported, such as wheat and potatoes. The horse from the American West was reintroduced by the Spanish thousands of years after the extinction of the original North American horse. And in Lake Superior, a beetle was introduced to eat harmful loosestrife seeds. It's easy for us to travel all around the world and acquire things. It is also easy for us to bring things home that do not belong here. So as scientists study and discover how to manage our changing environment, each of us can do our part in our own community by knowing the difference between good and bad non-native species.
Welcome back to Aqua Kids.
As our Great Lake adventure continues, we're here on Pokegama Bay, and Purple Loosestrife is an invasive species here in this wetland. Let's find out what's being done about this problem.
Hey guys, here's the plant we're talking about.
Oh, wow. So is this an invasive species?
Yes, an invasive species from Europe. It came into the eastern United States about 100 years ago,
How did it get here?
mostly in chips ballast, but also people like to plant it. It's a beautiful flower.
What problems does it cause?
Well, this plant creates dense monospecific stands in wetlands, and it crowds out other species. So it creates very low diversity.
Monospecific stands? What are they?
Well, there are stands of plants where there's only one species living there. So this species will crowd out other species and reduce the diversity of these normally very highly diverse wetland habitats.
I can tell by just standing here, it's real densely packed.
So what are people doing about this?
Well, there's a number of things you can do. Some people remove it by hand. You can use herbicides. Here we're looking at biological control.
Can we help?
Yes, well, we can take a look and see how hard it is to remove the tops of these plants.
Why is the purple loosestrife so invasive?
One of the main reasons is to produce lots of seeds. Each plant can produce over 1 million seeds, and those seeds all drop into the environment, into the wetland. And when there's disturbance, all those seeds then become new plants.
So what else contributes to it being so invasive?
Well, also each piece of stem that falls can produce new roots. So even a little bit of a stem fragment can produce a whole new plant.
So even if a single leaf drops, it can germinate and become another plant?
Yes, a single leaf will produce roots.
What can we do to help?
One of the things we can do is clip off the tips of the plants, which will prevent the flowering and the seed set.
All right, so how do we do this?
You take the top of the plant, you clip it down below where you see the flowers. And you can do every stem you see, just clip those off and make sure you keep them because you don't want them to fall in the water here. You want to put them in your bag.
Okay. So you had mentioned before that these can be controlled by a biological process. What was that?
Yes, there's a biological control agent, actually 2 beetles that have been released in this wetland to control this plant.
So what do?
They do the same thing we're doing now. So they actually nip the top of the plant off and prevent flowering. Maybe we can go look and find some of those.
Yeah, that'll be great.
So this is an example of biological control. You can see where the beetles have come in and the larvae have eaten all this material off. And it's basically they've done the same thing we were doing, except they do it much more effectively.
Is it just the larva that eats it off?
The adults and the larvae, but mostly the larvae are the ones that make this skeletonizing appearance of the leaves. That just make the leaves fall apart.
Now, I couldn't help but notice this big cage behind us. What is this for?
We're trying to understand better what the impact of the biocontrol agents are on the plant Purple Loosestrife. And so here we've eliminated the agents, which actually it's called an exclusion cage. So we're not letting the agents into this cage, and we can measure what the effect of the biocontrol agents are by comparing this without any effect with this over here that's been affected by the agents.
Well, it looks like they've been doing a great job.
Yes, in fact, last year we had these cages up, and we found that without the beetles, these plants produced about 100,000 seeds each, and these only produce about 5,000. So we know that there's a great reduction in seed set in this area because of these biocontrol agents.
Gosh, you got a lot.
Yeah, we got quite a bit.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Jeremiah.
How are you?
Good.
What did you guys learn out there?
Well, I learned today that the purple loosestrife is actually quite invasive because of its seeds and germination process.
And I learned that besides cutting off their heads like we were doing today, they actually introduced a beetle that is a biological control agent that can help wipe them out.
Oh wow. Well, it seems you guys learned a lot.
Yeah.
As you can see, the folks at the Lake Superior Reserve are doing intense research to learn how to control the invasive species population facing Lake Superior. That's all we have for today, but we'll see you next time on Aqua Kids as our Great Lake adventure continues.